就我快要结婚了，所以这次在讨论离婚的时候，就大家给我很多建议，就是婚姻是需要经营的。那简单来说，两边都需要花心去经营。那如果经过了很长的时间，那或者说已经到后来只有一边在经营，那如果完全没有任何的付出的话，那离婚可能是一个对，不好意思。那就是感谢大家对我的这个教育。
他21号要结婚了。
就是说，婚姻都很怕有第三者，但是身为基督徒的话，会有个第三者一直都在，那其实就是上帝。
Okay. I'll just give you one word of advice. Marriage is something the question is a very interesting question. He's about to get married, and talk about divorce, I think, is sort of scaring him. But don't let that bother you, because when you get married, it's a lifelong adventure, and you work on your marriage for your entire life. I've known people, I was with a cousin not long ago in Atlanta, and he came up to me and says, Uncle Dan, he says, marriage is sure hard work. And he's been married, I think, already 5 or 6 years. So, it's going to be hard work, but it's worth it. So don't worry, don't let the talk about divorce scare you. The reason I picked this passage is for 2 reasons. First of all, these passages are found in 3 of the Gospels, and Jesus' views are very, very clear. In fact, even when the disciples take him aside and ask him again, what did you really mean? He makes it quite clear what he really means. Now, this is something where Jesus is, there's no doubt what he says here. And yet, at the same time, this is probably the one issue that we have been very, how should we say, Jesus might be rather surprised at our contemporary application of this passage. We spend a lot of time, for example, discussing, say, the gay issue. Jesus never mentions that issue in his entire ministry. He never talks about it. It's not something important to him. But divorce obviously was important to him, and he had some pretty strong things to say. And probably the only church in our general experience that really follows these teachings would be the Roman Catholic Church, and even they have ways to wiggle out of it. If you have enough money, you can get a coat annulment, which we jokingly refer to as a Catholic divorce. But this is what the Kennedys did. If they wanted to get married, they got an annulment. And said to one of the Kennedy wives, if I've already got 3 children, how could it be not married? Well, anything is possible. Money. But this is something we have really changed our views on in the church. In fact, we have changed our views so much that if you look at the Book of Confessions, we have actually amended the Westminster Confession of Faith because of its very harsh words on divorce. Now, there was a time when divorce was really frowned upon in the church. And a minister who got divorced, would probably have to leave the parish. But today, that's not the case. Now, my question is this. why or how have we come to a point where we take this particular issue and reinterpret it and apply it in such a different way than you would expect? What has happened? What has brought us to that point where we do not see divorce in the absolute sense in which Jesus talked about it? Now, we're not talking about Paul and culture and customs here. We're talking about the very words of Jesus, that when a couple is married, that is for life. And if you, for some reason, get a divorce and remarry, and he doesn't say if you don't remarry, but if you remarry, then you're committing adultery against the person who you were originally married to. But we don't practice that too much in the church now. What happened?
King Henry VIII.
King Henry VIII. Be careful, he also killed some of his wives. We want to, but yeah, that's a good example. Henry VIII in the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Church. But I think, this is something that's happened in more recent times.
I think this is our group discussion too. Okay? Because that erroneous in 圣经无问就是说
Okay.
And I think since it's God, it's Jesus come from. You said may come from Jesus, and that we should, unless there's adultery involved, then you can have divorce. Otherwise, there is absolutely no divorce. You are making your wife become an adult, sort of in adulteress. If she didn't commit adultery, you make her adulteress. So it's a sin. And if you, I was ready to ask you this question. The changes you said you can apply culture, apply society, 社会和什么文化背景在改变什么之类的。Can we really change God's perception or his command that okay now we can divorce because either we have different opinions or we have different arguments, we change our mind, change our heart. We don't no longer love the other half, so you can go ahead and divorce. I mean, is that our sinful nature, or we are falling, or?
Well, no, that's what. Okay, we got a number of questions here that are coming all together. First of all, do not misunderstand me. I'm not a champion of divorce, so I'm not going and saying, okay, that's all. There's some I've had friends that they have their midlife crisis, when they get in their 40s, and they have to get divorced and get another wife or another husband because that's what all their friends are doing. I'm not advocating that at all, so don't misunderstand me here. Now, you mentioned the point about our sinful nature. Jesus said, Moses said you can get a divorce because of basically your sinful nature. People make mistakes. And I think we have to consider a couple of things here. There's also the forgiveness of God and the grace of God. Now, maybe what has happened here is not that the church is approving divorce, but that we have become more aware of God's grace and God's forgiveness for divorce. But keep in mind, most divorces that happen today do not happen because of adultery. In fact, statistics show us the vast majority of people who get divorced over arguments over money. That's the number one issue. And I see people smiling here. But that's the number one issue that leads to divorce. Now, the turning point came in society. Let's look at society first. A turning point came in society at the end of World War II, and the reason was that during the war, the women went to work in the defense plants. And therefore, they had an income, an independent income. And actually, the majority of divorces are brought by women against their husbands rather than the husbands against the wife. And one of the reasons you have a very low divorce rate in many cultures is because the wife has no independent income. And if she gets a divorce, she loses her income, she loses her status in society, she loses her position in society. But if a woman has her own income, then she can survive, she can have a job, she can support her children supposedly, etc., etc. Now the reality is single mothers have a pretty rough time of it. And there's a very dark side to divorce in terms of the single parents, and it's often the woman who suffers the most trying to hold down a job and raise the kids. Sometimes there's a husband who doesn't provide support? Is he supposed to? And so on and so forth. So there's lots of aspects to divorce. But the church has definitely changed our position in two ways. One, we have become more forgiving. Certainly we don't judge people, say, well, you're divorced, and therefore, and we have allowed remarriage without a stigma attached to it. I have a friend, one of my friends that I grew up with, both he and his wife are in their third marriage. But it's stuck. I mean, they really love each other. And there's no doubt this is the last one. And they've been married now for a number of years. It's a very happy marriage. But it's not been an easy one. But they probably both married too young. You know, we make marriage very easy and divorce very difficult. I think it should be the other way around. Marriage should be difficult. You know, people can get married very easy. Just go down and go to Las Vegas. You're really in a hurry. But, you know, we make marriage very easy, and people often enter into marriage thinking, you know, it's a very simple matter. It's not. And also the other question, the other thing that comes into play in American society is we have what is called neo-local type family units. In other words, a husband and wife marry and they move away and they do not have the support of the families. One of the reasons you have a lower divorce rate sometimes in some Asian cultures is because when people get married, it's not just the man and the woman, it's two families getting married, and the families have an interest in making sure that marriage works. And they're going to provide, if the marriage is not working, they're going to provide support. And I know of a case in Taiwan of someone I knew in Taiwan where a marriage got into big trouble, and it would certainly have led to divorce in the United States. I have absolutely no doubt about it. But the families got behind the individuals involved and said, now look, you're Christians, you're part of the church, you have a responsibility to each other, you married with the idea you were going to commit yourself to each other, let's work this out. And they did. And today they're a very happily married couple. But had it not been for the family support, and for the support actually of the church as well. So if you look at now, if you look at most churches have divorce support groups. You know, and a lot of conservative evangelical churches, where a few years ago you wouldn't even talk about divorce, you know, now have these kind of support groups. But society itself has become more accepting of divorce in society, and we accept remarriage without any too big of a problem. Although sometimes when people come to me, I say, no, if you're going to remarry, make sure you don't make the same problem you made first time around.
May I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
If society has become more acceptable about divorce, how did that happen?
Well, I think it happened, again, I think you can see the turning point at the end of World War II. And what happened is society no longer saw divorce as a moral issue, but they saw it as a social issue. And that was the turning point. Now, see, when Jesus is talking about divorce, he's seeing it as a moral issue, adultery. And it was very clear that in Jesus' mind, the main purpose, reason for divorce was adultery, and the main reason not for having a divorce is because if you are married and then remarry, you're committing adultery. So he saw it very clearly in moral terms. But I think society in general has changed our view of divorce, so we see it as a social issue. And I gave the example the other day of Korea. And when women went to work, and because everybody had to have a new car, a new apartment, and to keep up with the Kim, and therefore it took two incomes. And the wife, for the first time, had an income. So if the husband came home late at night, drunk, with lipstick on his collar, she said, "Hey, I don't have to put up with this anymore. I can be a free woman. I have my own income. I can move out. I can have my apartment." And so that changed the whole society. And at one point, Korea had the third highest divorce rate in the world, even higher than California. You can imagine such a thing. And it's now moderated and gone down as people, become adjusted to the new situation. I think we have to understand also that in the time of Jesus, you didn't have the same stresses on a family that you have today. In those days, families were much more stable. You even look at Taiwan. In the old days, people lived on the farm. They had the kind of the U-shaped house, and as the family got bigger, they'd add to it and so forth. People lived together in a family compound. They worked together. That all provided stability. But now what happens? Some of the family goes to California. Some of the family move to Taipei. Somebody else goes down to Kaohsiung. You're not close together, and you don't have that support group. And then you have all kinds of stresses on the family, work stresses. Commuter marriages are very common now. I know lots of people where the husband will live here and the wife will live here. They'll see each other on weekends or every other weekend. That would have been impossible to even conceive in the days of Jesus. So there's lots of stresses on family life. And I think we need to give not only attention to divorce, but we need to give attention in our churches to strengthening marriages and strengthening family life so that the divorces do not happen.
Our book, another comment is that we said that Jesus teaches us that adultery is one cause, one reason to go through divorce. The second one would be abuse. The abuse is the husband or wife.
Right.
Become life-threatening because this is can be justified for divorce. But then maybe we can interpret that's part of adultery too.
Well,
And I also want to comment is that this is a foreign world. We know that this world, Satan really has a control in this world. In our meditation of the Bible is right. So as a Christian, we are sort of 因为基督从圣洁化 so we are Christians. We have maybe before in the US maybe it's majority. Now we gradually become minority. You see that even women can be prostituted. Now in the school now, he said that we cannot a Bible study, we cannot recite our doctrines, and so we can be prostituted. We should recognize, accept our position in this world. We cannot say that we can go along with the world. We change. So.
Okay. Talking about abuse, I would say that's very much like getting gangrene in your foot. Nobody wants to cut your leg off, but sometimes you have to do it to save your life. And in some marriages, divorce is the only way to save people's lives. Okay.
Yeah, so I am a little bit confused about some of the things. So you mentioned like the divorcing is kind of a social issue now, and in Jesus' time it's more like a moral issue. So
I would say Jesus interpreted it as a moral issue,
okay.
but Americans